welcome to the 18th bonus video in the 20 years of MCF celebration. I'm MCFPapa. For this video, I'm gonna list the top 10 entries in the series which I'd like to see get a full follow-up game. Sometimes because I want to see the location again, sometimes because I'd like to see what happened to certain characters, and sometimes because I feel a game didn't have its potential fully explored. Number 10, Millionaire. I'd love to see Filthy Rich again in an entry, and we don't even learn what the town his mansion is located in is called. There could be a bunch of stuff going on in it. You just know that as a wealthy person like he is, there's probably a lot of skeletons in his closet, both real and metaphorical. You don't get super wealthy through totally honest means. Number 9, Crossfade. At the end of the game, we get rescued by an MCF SWAT team. The man even has his eyes flash green very sinisterly. Does the MCF agency have its own small army? That'd be interesting to see what the mechanics of that are. And what was the deal with the man with green eyes? Was he the version of us from the mirror world who got out into the real world? I don't know. It's never been followed up on. Number 8, Dire Grove Sacred Grove. Alistair Dalamar being a Mistwalker is a very intriguing element I feel wasn't given much time to shine in Dire Grove Sacred Grove because they just kept it for the bonus game and alternate ending. Plus, even though Charles's work seems to have been thwarted in the reboot timeline, that does nothing to stop Alistair. And they could reintroduce Alistair in something related to Ravenhurst, but if they're gonna bring him back, I'd much rather it be in a more unique setting such as in Dire Grove. And there would also be some potential to interact with Aisling O'Hara and her Banshee form again, if she's still a thing in the reboot timeline, I'm not sure. Number 7, Moths to a Flame. I'd love to see the Archivist return. An antagonist with extensive knowledge of the Master Detective is great. As the riddle of Mrs. Bishop reveals, he seems to not exist in the reboot timeline, but I find this totally unacceptable that they get rid of such a great non-Dalamar villain. Perhaps he's in the shadows studying how the Master Detective behaves in this altered timeline, and he's just waiting for his moment to strike. I'd love for him to become a recurring foil to the Master Detective, kind of like how Sherlock Holmes has Professor Moriarty. I think that'd be great to have in this series. Number 6, Huntsville. Imagine a future entry where we get to return to Huntsville and get to explore it as a point-and-click adventure. Imagine seeing what all the Stain characters are up to now. Now sure, it probably wouldn't have the same serious or supernatural tone that most of the other games in the series have, but it'd still be quite enjoyable to get to experience Huntsville in a new way like that. Number 5, the Malgrave Incident. The Island with Dust is a very cool setting, but it just wasn't explored that much in the Malgrave Incident. It was very basic and desolate. Maybe the island has gotten reopened in the years since the first game, and there are now efforts to rebuild and make a new society there. Maybe Winston Malgrave himself has grown into a young adult who's trying to do better than what he did in the past. Maybe there's even a new antagonist who's come to the island to harness the dust for themselves. Number 4, Madame Fate. In the reboot timeline, Charles was defeated before he was able to cause harm to Emma or Rose, and therefore his ghost wouldn't have gone to Fate's carnival chasing down the Master Detective after freeing Emma to kill Madame Fate. So Madame Fate should still be totally alive and well in this new timeline. Perhaps even in the rebooted continuity, some of the Carnies can be still alive. And maybe we could finally get voiced character interactions with Twyla Twangle Contortionist, Tabitha the Lion Tamer, Art the Carney, and Armando the Ringmaster. That'd be great to finally complete the full 15 set. Number 3, Rewind. I'd love to see another game that's a throwback to the classic era style with a high emphasis on hidden object scenes and humor. It would be great to once more see a variety of characters from across the series come together and interact in different ways. If they would make a second classic era game, I'd like them to do an overworld map this time, and it would be cool to see new scenes based on things we didn't get hidden object scenes for across the series. Like one based off the Drive motel room from Shadow Lake, or one based on the Madame Fate Ferris wheel. Number 2, Prime Suspects. Only Art the Carney has ever returned in the series. The other 19 suspects have all gotten left by the wayside, which is a real shame, because I'd love to see most of them again. Maybe Pierce Hart is engaging in more immoral experiments this time around, and he's the main villain. Maybe 101101 is trying to turn over a new leaf, but finding it difficult to find a job in a world growing increasingly wary of AI. Maybe Crystal Ball turns out to be the cousin of Madame Fate. That'd be a unique lore expansion. Even just having Supervisor physically appearing in the game to help out the Master Detective on a case would be cool. And given Capital City has several million people, there's just gotta be some sort of mystery going on that would be important enough for the Master Detective to return to the city. Now for some honorable mentions: The Riddle of Mrs. Bishop and Fragments of Truth. I'm putting these as honorable mentions because there's a 99.9% chance that the house that Love built will follow up on the events of these games. Also, I guess give Ravenhurst an honorable mention because it's practically guaranteed that there will continue to be sequels to that game in some form or another, if not the Angelica Morgan plotline, and some other Dalamar will turn up so they can milk the series some more. And now the number 1 most wanted sequel is Shadow Lake. This one always seems crazy to me that it hasn't gotten one. With Madame Fate, Dire Grove, and 13th Skull, their original games had pretty much no open ends for a sequel, yet they all got one. With Shadow Lake, the game explicitly ends on a cliffhanger, with Kelly having a piece of Adramelech's horn setting up that the story isn't over. And they never followed up on this. A sequel could be a way for the Ghost Patrol to return in full form, including Jack Talon coming back. Heck, why not bring Benjamin Wright back and finally have him be accepted as a full-fledged member of the Ghost Patrol, concluding his story arc. The existence of Adramelech proves that demons are real in the MCF series, and we can logically conclude therefore that heaven and hell are also real, yet they never followed up on that. Maybe they could do a future entry where the Master Detective has to go to hell and stop all the souls of the series villains from escaping. Okay, maybe that's a bit too much, but they could still at least follow up on Adramelech himself. Yeah, we purified the horn fragment in Shadow Lake, but surely he has more power than that. I mean, his skeleton is just still left beneath the prison for anyone who explores enough to find it. And in the final scene of Shadow Lake, we know that he still at least has the power to manipulate people. I always thought it was strange that a town in the US managed to be abandoned for decades. Surely some greedy developer would buy the cheap land, so they could do a plot point of people coming to Bitterford to rebuild and redevelop the town, yet they get enthralled by the demon's power. And I think that at least some of the sequels I've listed on this list are likely to happen eventually, given enough time. But my point with this video is that there's a ton of potential for future entries that are based on the past, besides just going back to Ravenhurst for yet another entry. But I guess we'll just have to see what the future holds. So for now, like and subscribe if you want, and I'll see you in the next bonus video.